we welcome Jessica Rubie to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Did you have a nice weekend?
Oh yeah, had dinner with friends, talked about where to get a vaccine, all the exciting stuff happening right now.
Yeah, no question. Where do you think you're going to end up doing it, or where have you signed up?
I got on a no waste list at Walmart and another waiting list, because I'm like in the very middle age group, healthy category. I could probably be the last person who gets a vaccine, but I desperately want to get back on a plane regularly. So
yeah, I agree with that. And you and I will be standing together at the end of the line.
Yes.
So give us 60 seconds on your road to Texas A&M.
I followed Mike Young here from the University of Washington. I had not worked for he and his wife for very long there. My dad had just died, and Marty Young called me up and said, "We're moving to Texas A&M." And in my head, I went, "Oh, like I do not have the capacity to look for another job right now." I really loved Mike and Marty, and I thought, well, like if I can go to Texas, let's just see how that goes. And not many people from Seattle were lining up to come to Texas, so I was lucky enough to come here with them, and the plan was I'd sort of be here a year and do all of Mike Young's leadership transition work. And then I was here for almost 3, and then took a break. And then he pulled me back into Flourish, I guess, in the fall of 2019. Yeah.
Where did you originally grow up?
I kind of grew up all over the Pacific Northwest. So both my parents are from Montana, and I spent a lot of time there as a child.
Yeah.
Portland, Oregon, and then just north of Seattle, where I went to high school. And then I went to college in Seattle as well.
How many in your family growing up?
There are 5 of us. I have 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. Yeah.
Oldest siblings unite, as we talk about
exactly.
family relations. What was your greatest challenge as a child?
I think perfectionism and self-acceptance. Yeah. I still work on navigating that in the most positive way possible, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's this good association with perfectionism, and I actually think it's not very helpful in many ways. It's like simultaneously trying to be extraordinary and fit in all at the same time, which is impossible, actually.
In a family as well as in an organization, obviously, personal wellness is still kind of one of the frontiers we're dealing with. What do you think leaders are still getting wrong about addressing wellness and wellness issues in large organizations?
Yeah, so I think most wellness initiatives in organizations to this point have been very downstream individual focused, meaning like, here's a yoga class and here's a discounted gym membership and here's the number to employee assistants. And like, you go do all of those things. And I think what will be most impactful, and maybe COVID will help get us there, is if we're also focused on a more upstream approach, which is how are we helping? At the end of the day, wellness is behavioral change. And that is very hard for people to navigate on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are we equipping leaders to help employees with behavioral change? How are we equipping leaders with empathy and resilience that allows that employee to even start their wellness journey? I mean, if your manager doesn't understand why it's important for you to take wellness time that is yours, the company's given you, or they don't understand why you shouldn't stay home when you're sick, or they don't understand that your child has a play and you need to leave early, like none of the downstream stuff matters or is very effective, actually, in my mind. I think it's really hard. Well, Gallup has data that says there's almost nothing you can do related to salary, benefits. I think wellness is included in all that, to overcome a bad manager. And so I think the biggest thing that we can do for wellness is equip leaders to be better managers of people and better facilitators of behavioral change. And that takes a lot of deep internal work. I think most organizations are focused on this professional development piece, which is important, but I actually think leadership coaching is much more effective from a day-to-day integration standpoint of some of the things that are most important in that space. Organizations have traditionally been very focused on what can the individual do related to their well-being.
Okay.
And actually, I think well-being and even this burnout epidemic that I think has been more exposed with COVID is an organizational issue. And it starts much farther up the chain of command than people will admit, which is having an empathetic manager that understands that life happens and that giving someone space around their wellness benefits. I hate to associate wellness with benefits to the organization because we should just do it anyway. We should want people to be well anyway, but at some point, I think the organization has a bigger responsibility to this whole concept than just providing some fitness classes.
Right. If the hardest thing to overcome is a bad manager, is a bad boss, what makes bosses, managers, executives better beyond taking an interest in the wellness of their direct reports, of their team? What makes them do better work? What are people still not getting quite right, just as individuals going in to manage a team?
I think that mostly what's happening in management is that we're promoting people who are really excellent individual contributors. Like they get promoted because of something, a skill set they've done well, and that doesn't have anything to do with managing people. Like sometimes there's a translation there, but not always. And people get very little support around that transition. It's just assumed that because you've excelled professionally before, that taking on this management role will be easy. And I think that's a huge misconception. Most people, that's one of the biggest, I think that new manager transition is one of the biggest leadership transitions that happens in your entire career, going from individual contributor to manager.
What advice would you give someone who is trying to make that transition? It's, is it all about delegation? Like what do people not understand about that transition that they really need to? What are we missing?
For new managers, I would say have some self-compassion that this is an incredibly big transition. And if it feels hard, you're not imagining that. And also, whatever support you can get around that transition, you should take advantage of it, whether your company provides that or whether you need to go out and get support from a coach or a mentor. I think surrounding yourself with good people who can support you in that journey, whatever it means to you, is really important and can't be understated.
Okay.
I think most people are going it alone more than they need to.
I see. What is Flourish? What should the Aggie community know about it?
Yeah, Flourish is the official employee wellness and engagement program at A&M. And we are charged with creating or cultivating a place where employees can grow personally and professionally and help with work-life integration.
What is the implementation of that look like? What are you spending most of your time doing right now?
Well, we sort of absorbed a program in HR called Wellness Works, which was doing great work in that fitness space. And so we've continued that work. We've added a lot more mental health offerings because people are just really struggling with that this year.
Yeah.
I think they always have. We're just talking about it more and it's more important. We're trying to develop community around all sorts of wellness, from people meeting up on Zoom for coffee or at the dog park, or making sure you have a buddy to go to your fitness class with, and trying to leverage the resources of the university to better serve employees and their families. So, a university is like a small city, and we have all these things on campus like athletics and museums and faculty with knowledge about almost anything you can think of. And if we can turn those resources towards employees and give them a day with their family at a, women's volleyball game, I think that goes a long way to the university showing people they care. But that's a true value add for someone who spends 40 hours a week here and has 3 kids at home, or just, not even 3 kids, or just a partner who you're looking to spend more time with them. So there's that. And then we really are working, to my point about managers and leaders, on building a cohort of coaches here internally at the university.
Okay. So in terms of, the cohort of coaches, is that what, who are they? Is that like a certification process that you're delivering to existing leaders? Are those people who are employed by Flourish? Like
No, they're people from all over the university, from all stages of their career, and also span faculty and staff. And we're providing them with some training and coaching that hopefully they can turn around and leverage in their units at the very least to make that experience better. But also, hopefully, long term, we'll have enough coaches on campus that we can provide coaching to any leader or staff member who wants that support.
Yeah. Okay. Your career originally began in politics. You've described doing some, as we touched on briefly earlier, you've described doing some unique things in service of very powerful people. What did that teach you about yourself or human nature that our listeners might not have seen or might not be aware of?
I think what did it teach me about myself or work ethic in general? It's that I've gotten to do a lot of really amazing things that make great stories at parties. Like I've been to the Olympics with people I worked for. I've been to the Vatican for a meeting with the Pope. I've built, sandbar, hosted a party in the middle of the Amazon. But I got to do those things because I did a lot of not so glamorous things, to the story I told you earlier about my first day working in a congresswoman's office and this dog eating a chocolate cake that had 2 pounds of chocolate in it that a donor had left. And my boss taking me and a couple of interns out to the parking lot and trying to make this dog get sick with hydrogen peroxide. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I went to college. This is like my first real job out of college. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is where I'm at, like with my college degree. And so getting to do those really interesting, fun story things, I think is a result of an accumulation of a lot of pretty mundane / not very glamorous experiences. And then in terms of what it's taught me about human nature, everyone's the same. I don't want to compare someone who's wealthy with someone who is dealing with issues related to abject poverty, but everyone has aging parents. Everyone is trying to raise kids who aren't jerks. Everyone's worried about their career and their business. Almost everyone has issues around food. we're all dealing with the same stuff. It's just on what scale we're talking.
What are you reading right now?
I just finished reading David Chang's memoir, Eat a Peach. He's a famous chef. He talks a lot about mental health, which I appreciated. And perfectionism, to our conversation earlier. And, I went to culinary school and I worked in restaurants for a while. And so I find that behind the scenes restaurant ecosystem really interesting. In fact, I really think that restaurants taught me how to be a good leader and a good manager, because suddenly I was surrounded by a whole lot of people who had a lot of different life experience, or drastically different life experiences than I did.
Right.
I think it's easy to grow up in the suburbs and go to college and kind of stay with a crowd that has life experiences that aren't that much different than you.
Yeah.
And so, I just find all of the inner workings of the restaurant industry super fascinating.
Yeah. I think most people who want to start a business, the most popular choice for aspiring entrepreneurs is some variety of restaurant.
Yeah.
And that is a tough business to get into.
It is. So, someone once told me, like, if you think you want to own a restaurant, just go sit at the bar at a restaurant every night, and once a month, just give them $10,000. And if you like that experience, like of just giving away money and being there all the time, then maybe you should consider opening a restaurant.
Oof, not for me. Not for me. What got you out of the culinary business?
It's very difficult to make a living, and it's crazy hours. Like, you're working, like, you miss all your friends' weddings and family occasions and holidays. There's a rampant drug and alcohol abuse in that industry. It's just kind of a hard lifestyle. There has to be something in you, I think, that just really wants you to succeed in that space. Like, it's almost like it's not a choice, I think, for many people who are very successful in that space. But it's a hard lifestyle for sure.
I feel like between you and me, we've hit the unholy quadfecta of that, because you've done the culinary business and politics, and I've done sports and film and television.
Yeah.
So that's the grand slam. That's the Mount Rushmore of
totally
jobs where you're going to be overworked, underpaid, and everyone around you is going to be hooked on something.
Yes. So true.
So let's move to rapid fire. What important truth do very few people agree with you on?
I think you can, with almost 100% certainty, tell what's important to people, a person or an organization, by looking at their finances and their calendar, or how they're spending their time.
Oh, so, and you feel like there would be some resistance to this idea because the way that most people look at it is...
Most people, when I say that to them, and I'll say this to a leader who I'll go into their world for a specific purpose, and I'm trying to get to know them, oftentimes when they have very limited time for me. And the resistance usually is, that's not a true reflection of what's important to me. Mm-hmm. And then the discussion usually devolves into, well, the stuff that's on my calendar, or the checks I'm writing, I guess we don't really have checks anymore, or the stuff on my credit card statement is stuff I have to do. Mm-hmm. And then that devolves into a conversation about choice. And so are you saying, is the most important thing to you pleasing a bunch of people? And how can we realign what's on your calendar or how you're spending money to really reflect what's important to you versus what you think should be important to you?
That's good. I like that. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
Probably that I'm a snob.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because I'm really introverted, and I think that makes people uncomfortable. Or I don't know if you've read that book, Quiet. it's this fascinating book about introverts and extroverts and how the world that we live in day to day is much more aligned with extroverted behavior. And I felt like suddenly I felt seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone you'd like to send some good bull?
Probably to my boss, Jeff Riesinger over in HR, who's just been a really big supporter of Flourish and has kind of scooped me up as Mike Young has left campus and has made a lot of good things possible for staff and faculty. He is truly someone who is leading HR from a people perspective instead of a policy perspective. And I think that's pretty unusual, which is, I think, surprising, but it's true. And so, sending him some good bull.
Good bull. Good bull to him. Good bull to you.
Yeah,
thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. Drop us a like below and feel free to leave a comment if you wish. We appreciate positivity and constructive feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes and bonus content. You can also take us on the road using your favorite podcast listening app. We have those linked below. If you'd like to know more about Mays Business School or our guests, visit mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Talk with you soon.